sunshine, we shine together. Told you I'll be here forever. Said I'll always be your friend. Took an oath that I'm stick it out till the end. Now that it's raining more than ever, know that we still have each other. You can stand under my
Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel. Today thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be drafting this waist snatched 3-part corset with basque waistline. If you're interested, keep on watching and let's get started. I'll go ahead and start taking my points. The distance from my shoulder to my chest line is 8 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my under bust point is 13 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my waist point is 16 inches. I went ahead to rule straight lines across all the points and I added 4 inches to my pattern paper. So from the waistline, which is 16 inches, I have 4 inches left on the pattern paper. On the shoulder line, which is the start of this pattern paper, I went ahead to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I took the same measurement on my chest line. I will go ahead and connect the dots on the shoulder line and the dots on the chest line into a straight line. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. The next thing I will do is to go down on this straight line by 1 inch from my shoulder slope. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot and I'll slant from there into the neckline area. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. I'll go ahead and label my pattern paper so you don't get confused. The next thing I'll do is to take my neckline measurement. For the width, I'll be taking 3 inches, and for the depth, I'll be taking 3 inches also. After doing that, I'll use my ruler to connect both points together. The next thing I'll do is to place my tape on this straight line right here, and what I have is 7 inches. I'll divide the 7 inches into 2 equal halves. Half of 7 inches is 3.5 inches. I'll indicate 3.5 inches with a dot. After doing that, on the chest line, I'll go ahead and place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll also indicate the measurement with a dot. On the dot that I have on that straight line, I'll go inward by half an inch. I'll also indicate the half an inch mark with a dot. After doing that, I'll go ahead and use the curved part of my ruler to connect from the shoulder slope to meet the half an inch, and from there to meet the dots that I have on the chest line. After doing that, guys, next thing I'm going to do is to determine how covered I want my chest area to be. So I'm going up by 2 inches from my chest line. It depends on what you want. You can do 1 inch. You can even decide not to go up at all, but for me, I'll be going up by 2 inches. After doing that, I'm going to rule a straight line across the 2 inches mark. So this particular line right now is going to be my new chest line. After doing that, guys, on my chest line, the formal chest line, I'll go down by half an inch. On that half an inch mark, I'll come inward like this by half an inch. You can see what I'm doing. I'll use my ruler to connect the 2 dots just like this. After doing that, guys, next thing I'll do is to take my bust span measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 4 inches. I'll place the 4 inches on my chest line, on the bust line, on the under bust line, and on the waistline. I'll indicate all the 4 inches with a dot. After doing that, guys, I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect all the dots into a straight line. Next thing I'll do is to take 1 inch. I'll place my tape on the waistline like this, and I'll take 1 inch on the side front. I'll also place my tape on the center front. I'll also mark 1 inch. I'll place my tape on the under bust line, and I'll take 1 inch on both sides of the straight line. I repeat the same thing for the length of this pattern paper. I'll take 1 inch on both sides. I'll indicate it with a dot. After doing that, I'll use my ruler to connect the 1 inch mark into a straight Next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the bust point, and I'll go down by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, I'll use the curved part of my ruler to connect from that 1 inch to meet my under bust like this. After doing that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and extend this dart leg to meet my new chest line, which is the 2 inches that I went up with. I'll connect like this. After doing that, guys, next thing I'm going to do is to tighten my over bust to avoid gaping. So I'm going to place my tape and I'll mark 1 inch on both sides of the straight line. Okay, after doing that, guys, I'm going to place my tape on the chest line and I'll go down by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from the chest line to meet this 1 inch mark that I just made like this. After doing that, guys, next thing I'm going to do is to blend this straight line that I have here. I'll use my marker to highlight it so it's visible. So the next thing I'm going to do is to place my ruler on the 1/2 inch mark on the chest line, and I'll connect like this to create one part of the curve. I also place my ruler on this other dart leg and I'll connect like this to meet the 1/2 inch mark. After doing that, I'm going to place my tape on the small part of this armhole area. What I have is 1 inch. I'll divide it into 2, so I marked 1/2 inch. I placed my tape on the 1/2 inch and I came down by another 1/2 inch. I will indicate the 1/2 inch mark with a dot. After doing that, I'll use my ruler to rule a straight line across this 1/2 inch. So remember, this top does not have any armhole, so I'm going to place my ruler on that 1/2 inch mark. That is my armhole, my new armhole, and I'll connect to meet the under bust line. After doing that, I'll place my ruler on this dart leg and I'll connect it back to meet the 1/2 inch. In case you are confused, I have other detailed corset tutorial on my channel. I'll be leaving the link in the comment section. After doing that, I'll go ahead and start placing my measurements on the chest line. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace this dart of 2 inches and I'm going to add 1 inch for my stitching allowance. So we are going to be snatching our waist on the waistline. So my waist circumference is 28 inches and I want to snatch it by 6 inches. So I want to take out 6 inches from my waist measurement. This 6 inches is for me. You can go ahead and take out 4 inches, 3 inches, depends on what you want. So you are going to minus, I went ahead to minus, not divide, please. I minus 6 inches from 28 inches and I got 22 inches. Since my fabric is going to be folded into 4, I went ahead to divide 22 inches by 4 and what it gave me was 5.5 inches. I hope you guys are not confused. So I'll be placing 5.5 inches on the waistline, but before I do that, on my under bust line, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace this dart of 2 inches and I'll add 1 inches to that measurement for my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll go ahead and place the 5.5 inches. I'll replace the dart and I'll also go ahead and add 1 inch to the measurement for my stitching allowance. On the length of this pattern paper, which is going to be the length of my top, I'm going to place my hip circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart and I'll add 1 inches to it for stitching allowance. You don't have to place your hip circumference on the length of your top. I'm just doing this to be on the safer side. You can always shape it anyway, so I'm just doing that. I'm going to shape when I'm sewing. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and connect my dots. Guys, after placing my measurements, this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do is to create the basque waistline. I'll go ahead and connect from the center front to meet the waistline. Alternatively, you can go down by 1 inch from the waistline and then you connect back into the center front. It depends on what you want. You can also go down by 2 inches from the waistline if you don't want to connect it straight down to the waistline. So we have the basque waistline. Go ahead and blend everything in place. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do is to create the 3-part corset. So I'm going to place my tape like this, and I'm going to mark 2.5 inches on the side front. I'll place my tape on the center. I'll also mark 2.5 inches. I'll place my tape on this other side. I'll mark 2.5 inches. So take note of where I am placing my tape. Also place 2.5 inches on the center front like this, and I'll use my marker to connect the 2.5 inches mark like this. So yeah, guys, that is how to create your 3-part corset. And if you don't want a 3-part corset, you can stop at the 2-part corset. After doing that, guys, next thing I'll do is to go ahead and cut. So pay close attention so you know where to cut. So guys, do not forget to label before you start cutting. After cutting, this is what I have. I did not cut out the back waistline because I want to be sure that it's sitting together. So I'll place my ruler and I'll mark it like this to be sure that the two sides are sitting together. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut. After cutting, guys, you can see that I did not cut out the cup yet because I want to use the front to cut out the back. So I'm going to place my pattern paper and I'll pin them down. So as you can see, I left about 1 inch at the center back, which is going to be my zipper allowance. I went ahead and used my ruler to mark out the waistline because the back is supposed to stop at the waistline. I also went ahead to use my ruler to mark out the upper part. Okay, so make sure you measure what you have on the front. That is what you should have on the back. After doing that, I'll just go ahead and trace out the sides as it is. Okay, the only difference here is that the back stopped at the waistline, and yeah, I'll trim out the neckline also, and I'll remove the front from the back. After doing that, I'll go ahead and highlight the waist area, and then I'll cut out. So that is all for the back. And if you are confused about the back, you can go ahead and just draft out the back just the way you did for the front, just that the back does not have a cup, obviously. So I'll go ahead and mark my zipper allowance of 1 inch, and yeah, that is all for the back. If you want another neckline, you can go ahead and go down by 1 inch or 2 for the back. That is if you want the back to be open. So that is all for the back, guys. And for the front, I'll go ahead and trim out my cups. So you can see that I labeled my cup. I have center front 1, side front 2, and I also have 1 and 2 for the upper part of the cup. So this is what I have, my center front and my side front. So I'm going to join the upper part of the cup. I'll make it into one piece so I don't cut out 2 pieces when I'm sewing. So I'll keep this aside and I'll bring in a fresh pattern paper. I'm going to place 1 and 2 on it and I'll make it into one piece. So I'm going to place them side by side like this, and I'll use my marker to trace all the way around. After tracing, I'll go ahead and cut out, guys. So make sure you pin it down, then you trace. After tracing, I'll cut, and this is what I have. So this is number 1. Then we have center front and we have side front. After cutting out, guys, this is what I have. So I'll use my marker to just create an arrow for me to know this is where I'm joining. You already know the up and the down. You can just label up and down so you don't get confused when you're sewing. So guys, these are all the patterns that we'll be needing for this tutorial. These are my 2 side front and center front for the cup and number 1. So this is how we are going to cut and place it. This is my center front and I have my side front. So when cutting on your fabric, go ahead and add half an inch allowance to all the pattern papers that you can see here so you don't run short of fabric. Yeah, guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Please don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.